Now, under this Holozoic mode of nutrition, we will discuss about the nutrition in human beings, and we also want to know about how the human beings do digest the food materials, and we will get into it. So, the digestion starts from mouth to anus, and that is called as the alimentary canal. So, whatever the organs present from mouth to anus is called as the alimentary canal, and that helps in the complete digestion process. So, from mouth, the food particles go to esophagus. Esophagus is the food pipe, and that is the one which pushes the food from mouth to the hollow organ called as stomach, which is J shape, and from there the food goes to the next organ called as the small intestine, and where the complete digestion takes place, and from there it goes to the next organ called as large intestine, where there is no digestion. The undigested food is removed out by the external opening that is called as the anus. So this is the basic outline of the digestion process, and following that, so the first place where the first organ where the digestion starts is the mouth. So what does the mouth comprises of? Mouth comprises of teeth, a rolling tongue, and then salivary gland. So these are the three things which help in the further digestion process. And we all know that teeth, we have studied in earlier lower classes, that there are four different types of teeth like incisors, canines, premolars and molars, which crush and grind the food particle, and followed by that the tongue helps in complete rolling of the food, and the third important thing is the salivary gland. So salivary gland is the gland, when there is a word called as gland, it produces some secretion. We use the word secretion. So salivary gland produces watery substances that is called as saliva, and when we like any food or when we smell any food, we just salivate in mouth. So that watery secretion produced in the mouth is called as saliva, and that contain an enzyme called as salivary amylase. So enzyme contained present in the saliva is called as salivary amylase. So enzyme means it is a biocatalyst. What is it? Biocatalyst. Catalyst means mediating some reaction, and bio means what? Biologically mediating a reaction. So that is called as a biocatalyst, which help in the conversion of complex carbohydrate to simple sugar, what is present in the food particle. So this is the first part of digestion that takes place in the mouth by these three three things, that is teeth, tongue and salivary gland. And following that, the semi fluid, the half chewed food now reaches the next part that is called as the esophagus. So esophagus is this food pipe which is parallel along with the windpipe. So we can see the food pipe and the windpipe close to each other, and that is why we used to say that when we are having our food we should not talk, because there are chances that the food particle from the food pipe will go to the windpipe, and then obviously you cough or you just hit on your head and automatically this food particle comes back again to the food pipe. So that is the role of the esophagus, which allow the food from the mouth to the stomach. And then esophagus pushes the food in the rhythmic contraction and relaxation. So rhythmic contraction, you can see the movement. The rhythmic contraction and relaxation movement, the food passes through the food pipe and reaches the stomach. And in the stomach, it contains three important things: hydrochloric acid, pepsin and mucus. We'll discuss that. And in small intestine, where complete digestion I told you. So complex carbohydrate converted glucose, protein to amino acid, fat to fatty acid and glycerol. And along with the small intestine, we do have secretion coming from the liver called as bile, and pancreas produces the content called as trypsin and amylase. So we will discuss about each part in detail. And large intestine receives the food, where the undigested food is removed out through the anus and no digestion takes place in the large intestine. So this is the basic introduction about the alimentary canal, and we'll discuss about the food that is reaching the stomach. From stomach, what happens, we'll discuss. After esophagus, where does the food goes? After esophagus, the food goes to the next organ that is called as the stomach. And what is the role of stomach that helps in the digestion? It contains gastric glands present in the wall of the stomach, and that produces three important substances. What are the three important substances it produces? The first one is the hydrochloric acid, pepsin and mucus, and we will discuss what is the role of each one in the digestion process. The first one is hydrochloric acid. So when I see hydrochloric acid, as the name suggests, it is an acid, and that makes the food acidic, as well as it kills the germs that is entering the food. Now, killing the germs entering the food is okay, fine, but what is the purpose of making the food acidic? The reason is we have the second substance called as pepsin. This pepsin is a protein digesting enzyme, and that will be active only in the presence of acid. So thereby dual function is fulfilled. One is HCl kills the germs. Second one is it activates the pepsin so that the protein part, it digests the protein present in the food substance. Now the third one is the mucus. So what is the mucus? It is the one which lines the inner lining of the stomach, and as a result, the acid treatment will not damage the inner wall of the stomach. So thereby we have these three substances which plays an important role in the process of digestion. Now this part of stomach is over, and now what happens? From the stomach, you have the opening that you call it as the word sphincter. So sphincter means like how you have a valve, a tap opening slowly. It opens, permit the movement. Same way, the movement of food particle from stomach to the next compartment or the next organ is the small intestine. So this is a coiled tube-like structure which is so compactly arranged, and that fits inside our inside. And then, what is the role of small intestine? So when I talk about the small intestine, that is the place where the complete digestion takes over there. Intestine. The size of the small intestine will vary from animals to animals. For example, if you see herbivorous animal, they eat grass containing material, the cellulose containing material. In that case, we can see it has to digest it. So the small intestine will be lengthier, longer compared to the carnivorous, which are flesh-eating animals, which have a shorter, small intestine. So the small intestine depends upon the food item what the organisms consume. Organ that from the stomach, the food goes to the next organ that is called as the small intestine. So the small intestine is a place where complete digestion takes place. No more. After small intestine, there is no digestion that is going to take place. Within the small intestine, all the complex substance is going to convert into the simpler form. Now, a very important thing, all the important process of digestion do takes place in small intestine. So many events are going to happen. So many stepwise process do happen in the small intestine. So what is stepwise process? We will just see one by one. Now, when the stomach slowly allows the food into the small intestine, few things also happens. What are the few other things that is happening over there? When I talk about few more things that is happening is, first thing is, there is an organ, a nearby organ to the small intestine that you call it as a liver. Okay, so what is the role of liver over there? It produces a substance that is called as the bile. Now, what is the role of a bile over here? Okay, what is the role of bile here? Role of this bile. The role of this bile is that this bile goes and sits on the big fat droplet. So the bile will go and sit on the fat droplet. As a result, what happens? It make it easy for the enzyme to convert it into fatty acid and glycerol. So not only that, the food that is coming from the stomach is already acidic due to HCl, and now this bile will make the food alkaline, and thereby it is easy for the enzyme efficiency to break the all the other complex substances to simple substance. For example, like lipase will break down lipid into fatty acid and glycerol, and you have a trypsin, protease enzyme which convert again protein into simple substance called as amino acid. So these simple conversions are made easier when the food is alkaline, and not only that, it is easy for the enzymes that is produced by the pancreas to act upon. So when the food is entering the small intestine, I have discussed what is the role of liver. Liver produces a substance called as bile, and this bile makes the food alkaline. That is the first one. And second one, it helps in the emulsification of fat, where large fat droplet will be acted upon, so that it is easy for the enzyme to convert it into fatty acid and glycerol. So role of liver is over. The next one is the pancreas. So when I say pancreas, so what is happening over there, I have just explained in detail. So as I told you already, the first thing is bile converts emulsification of fat, and then here we do have this pancreas. Pancreas is called as a heterocrine gland. Why do we call it as a heterocrine gland? So this is a gland which functions both as exocrine as well as endocrine, and that is why we call it as a heterocrine gland. And if you see the exocrine part, it produces the enzyme like trypsin and amylase. As I told you, trypsin is the one which convert protein to amino acid. Lipase is the one which convert the complex complex fat into fatty acid and glycerol. And then endocrine part produces the cells called as alpha and beta cells are present, and that produces the hormone called as glucagon and insulin, and that is helpful for maintaining the blood sugar level. So this is the role of pancreas, and when the food is entering from stomach to small intestine, these secretions also do enter in the small intestine and plays an important role. And ultimately, what is the purpose? All the complex substance has to be converted into simple substances. Where we have carbohydrate has to be converted to glucose, protein to converted to amino acid, fat to fatty acid and glycerol. And when these things are happening, small intestine has numerous finger-like projections. So these finger-like projections are called as villi. So what are the finger-like projections called as villi? And these villi are enriched or supplied with blood capillaries. It is fully supplied with the blood capillary, and that increases the surface area for absorption. And what is the role of this villi? Whatever the nutrients that is absorbed or converted to simple form has to reach each and every cell of our body, because what we are eating goes to the stomach, and from there the digestion takes place, and that food nutrients cannot remain there itself. It has to go to each and every part of the cell present in our body for doing vital purposes, repairing, bodybuilding, or any other process that is happening in our body. We require all these nutrients, simple form of nutrients, and that is available to all the cells of our body. So that is an important role played by the villi present in the small intestine. And also along with that, we do have intestinal juice present in the walls of small intestine that convert the final conversion. If any carbohydrate is left out, any protein is left out, lipid is left out, all these are converted to simple form. And finally, whatever the food that is coming from the digested food coming up from the small intestine reaches the large part, reaches the last part that is called as the large intestine, where no more further digestion takes place. The last part where the undigested food is removed out of the body, and that is called as the large intestine, and the port or exit point through which the undigested food is removed is called as the anus. So this is what an overall outline. Hope I have covered. And here we have about gallbladder. As I told you already, we have liver, and liver produces bile, and excess bile is stored in an organ called as a gallbladder. We had information how the digestion starts from alimentary canal and goes to the esophagus, stomach, small intestine, and finally large intestine, and exit out through the anus.